We used sailboats, not through choice, but because we had to, up until 1951, 52. Pacific American Fisheries boats were white boats, and they were painted mast color or yellow, dark yellow inside. And they were choice boats. They were recognized all over as being some of the best. Our boats were about 31, 32 feet long. The wooden hull, it was a double-ender. It had a steamed oak ribs, and it had a keel made out of, well, tulip wood was one that we used, and then they had oak and various hardwoods. But these steamed oak ribs were the thing that held it together. And then we had, in the early days, Port Orford cedar planking, so the boats were very well made, and our boats in particular were made down in Oregon, and we'd ship them up to Alaska on our steamer on deck. When the fisherman showed up, he had his partner with him. The partner was called a boat puller, and the captain was the man to whom the boat had been issued, and it was up to him to get a good partner, or he probably wouldn't get a job the next year. He was given a mast and a boom for the sail and a sprit for the sail, which was a lighter stick or spar that was used to make the sail bigger by poking it up into the corner and then fastening the bottom of the sprit to the mast. We also issued the fishermen a tent. They slept in a little tent up in the forward or forecastle end of the boat. It wasn't certainly a real bedroom, but at least they could put their deerskin hide down there, which most of them used underneath some kind of a mattress, maybe an air mattress or none at all. And this tent, called a Swede stove, it was a copper pressure kerosene-fired single-burner stove that they made their coffee on. And they had to cook in the boats, so they'd leave the cannery in those early days to be out on the grounds at 6 o'clock Monday morning, and they didn't come back until 6 o'clock Saturday night, and they had to cook and do everything out in that boat in that time without coming to the cannery. This Swede stove burned kerosene, so they each had to have something to get those stoves started. They didn't start very well out in the cold weather with kerosene, so each one of them got a pop bottle full of alcohol, wood alcohol. They'd use that to help start the stove. And then another thing we gave them, the doctor used to put that up, were pop bottles full of hand wash, which was nothing more or less than carbolic acid and water. And that was to prevent their getting infected hands in the boat, which was quite common. And to prevent that, they used this carbolic wash on their hands. And also they used to bring ladies' hose with them, silk hose, and put around their wrists where the oilskins would chafe their wrist. They got a net. At that time we were fishing linen nets. They were issued 2 shackles of net. A shackle is 75 fathoms long and 28 meshes deep. They got 2 of those shackles of net made of linen. But one of the most necessary things, of course, was the food kept in the boat without spoiling. And like, for instance, Scandinavians, they got some special stuff like that hardtack. We call them phonograph records, round hardtack. And also there was, of course, no fresh meat. They might get some, take it out for the first day or something, but they got canned meats of all kinds, everything under the sun. I didn't realize how much stuff could be canned. And the Italian boats, of course, they wanted lots of spaghetti and olive oil and that sort of thing, and they were issued Romanello cheese and Campbell's soup. Everybody got soup, and we got butter and eggs and that sort of thing. And also cooking gear. We gave them a Columbia River stew pot, they called it, named after the Columbia River boats. That's pretty much the story of how the fishermen lived out there. It was not comfortable. You can realize these are open boats with no facilities of any kind. They were always damp and wet because the boat was always wet, and their beds would get damp. But they went out with wool clothing and everything, but it was a tough life, particularly when they went out there from Monday morning till Saturday night without ever going ashore. They had to pull these nets in by hand and pick the fish out of them, and it was really tough work. And then if they had no wind, they had to use oars. They got 2 sets of 14-foot ash oars that weighed heavily, and they had to propel the boat by oars. Sometimes they'd have to row all day if they had no wind at all.